hooligans, welcome back for some more science. Doesn't have the same ring to it, but we're still excited nonetheless. So today we have dusted off an old science book, and we are going to be starting with Chapter 1, Lesson 1. So how this is going to work is that we are going to be doing a lesson is going to take 2 days. So the first day, you're going to listen to me read the lesson, and then you're going to do the vocabulary words. So basically in the book, you'll see that there are certain words that are highlighted in yellow, and I have gone through and underlined the definition because I'm a great teacher. And so all you have to do is go pause the video and look at what those definitions are and type that in for your assignment. So that's day 1. So day 2, you're going to listen to the whole thing again. It's very important that you listen to it on day 1 and day 2 because some of this material is brand new information for you guys. And so it's kind of complicated, but it doesn't mean that it's hard. Complicated and hard, not the same thing. So day 2, you're going to listen to it again, and then you're going to answer 3 short questions. So before you get worried, these answers will always be able to be found in the lessons. So as long as you listen and as long as you read along with me as I'm reading it to you, you should be able to find these answers no problem. Without further ado, we're going to start with Chapter 1, Lesson 1. Enjoy! What are the building blocks of life? How are a dandelion and a cat alike? Both are living things. They are both made from the building blocks of life. What cells are? A cell is the building block of life. A cell is the smallest unit of a living thing that can perform all life processes. All living things are made of cells. Some living things are made up of just one cell. Most living things, like plants and animals, are many-celled. Every part of a cat, from its muscles to its blood, is made of thousands, millions, even billions of cells. Many cells have a particular role. Some cells help the living thing get energy it uses to grow, develop, and reproduce. Other cells help it get rid of what it doesn't need. Others help it move or react to its environment. Still, other cells may protect the living thing or help it stay healthy. All cells come only from other living cells. Scientists use microscopes to study cells. A microscope is a tool that makes objects seem larger than they really are. Most cells are very small and hard to see. By using a microscope, scientists are able to look at a cell and see details that help them learn about the cell. The parts of a cell. Beetles, eagles, and elephants look nothing alike, but the cells that make up these animals have many similar parts. All cells have a nucleus and a cell membrane. All cells have a gel-like liquid called cytoplasm. The different parts of a cell have special jobs. Each part of a cell helps it carry out its life processes. The nucleus is the control center for the cell. The instructions for the cell's activities are stored in the nucleus. The cell membrane is the cell's outer border. It separates the cell from its environment. It also controls what substances move into or out of the cell. The cytoplasm contains the things that the cell needs to carry out its life processes. Cells working together. If cells are the building blocks of life, what can they build? In a many-celled plant or animal, cells are organized to work together. Different types of cells do different kinds of work. Groups of the same type of cell form a tissue. Now, this is not the same tissue that you sneeze your sneezes into. This is like tissue like muscle. Groups of the same type of cell form a tissue. Groups of tissues that work together form an organ. Groups of organs that work together form systems. An organism is the highest level of cell organization. It is a complete living thing that is made from all parts in all of the systems working together. So, the groups of the cells of the same cell type form a tissue. And then the groups of tissues form an organ, like a heart or like your lungs. And then groups of organs form systems. And then if you put all of those systems together, it becomes an organism. So it's kind of like different levels. So there at the bottom, it says viruses. A virus is a very tiny particle that has characteristics of both non-living and living things. Viruses are not made of cells. Viruses do not make or use food. A virus can reproduce by only using plant, animal, or other cells to make more viruses. Many scientists do not think a virus is a true living thing. Like animal cells, plant cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and a nucleus. But plant cells also have parts that animal cells do not. Plants make their own food. They need special parts to do this. Chloroplasts are the special parts in plant cells that trap the sun's energy. The plant needs this energy to make food. Animal cells do not have chloroplasts. The cell wall is another part of a plant cell that animal cells do not have. The cell wall is outside the cell membrane. It helps support and protect the cell. So here's a nice picture of the plant cell. So you'll see all the different little parts. You'll see if you start on the left, you'll see the cell wall. Remember, that's the part that a plant cell has that an animal cell does not. So you'll see the cell wall. Then if you go to the bottom, you'll see the cell membrane. You see how the cell membrane, if you follow it back up to the cell wall, the cell membrane is inside of that cell wall. So then you see the nucleus right in the middle. That's kind of like the brain of the cell. You see the chloroplast, and then at the bottom you see the cytoplasm is labeled, which is all the stuff on the inside. Hey hooligans! Okay, so I'm just here at the end, after you've already listened to the wonderful lesson, to explain the 4 vocabulary words and to read the 3 questions. So remember, the first day, you're going to define the 4 vocabulary words, and then the second day, you're going to answer the 3 questions. So, your 4 vocabulary words for Chapter 1, Lesson 1 are cell, nucleus, cytoplasm, and chloroplasts. So those are the 4 words that you will have to write out the definitions for or match the definitions for on day 1. So day 2 of this lesson, you're going to answer the 3 questions. So the first question says, why are cells considered the building blocks of living things? And I'll give you a hint. You can find this answer on the first page. So the very first page of when I was reading, where it says, what are the building blocks of life? And we talked about microscopes. It's on that page. So the question again says, question 1, why are cells considered the building blocks of living things? Remember to answer this in a full sentence and flip that around. So you would flip it around by saying, cells are considered the building blocks of living things because, and then explain why. Question 2 says, describe the difference between a cell, a tissue, and an organ. So remember when I was reading, I talked about the section that says cells working together. I talked about the different levels. So go back and re-listen to that, and you'll be able to answer this question easy. So you would flip that question. So where it says describe the difference between a cell, a tissue, and an organ, you would say a cell is, and explain that, a tissue is, and then you would explain that, and then you would say an organ is, and you would explain that. All of those are separate sentences, which means they need periods in between and capital letters at the beginning of each new sentence. Your third and final question says, can a single-celled organism contain tissues? So really go back and listen to where I was talking about cells working together. And remember, a single-celled organism. So an organism is the highest level of cell organization. So it's a complete living thing that is made up of all parts and systems working together. So a single-celled organism means one cell. There's only one cell, not a bunch of cells, but one cell. So can a single-celled organism contain tissues? And then it says explain. So make sure you do at least 2 to 3 sentences on explaining that. So if you have any questions, you can always message your teacher. In the meantime, I will see you tomorrow. Remember, day 1, you define the 4 vocabulary words, and day 2, you answer the 3 questions.
Peace out, 4th grade.